Hello, hello. Thanks for joining us today. We've just opened up the meeting, so it might take just a couple of seconds for everyone to filter in, but we will get started now. Thank you for joining us. Okay, so I am Sarah Massey. I'm Senior Associate Director for Admissions and Advising for the Executive MBA program, which means I am involved in our admissions process and building an amazing class each year. But I also work with students as an advisor, as does my colleague, Andy Leibel. Andy, say hello now.
Hi, I'm Andy Leibel, Assistant Director, Admissions and Advising.
You'll be hearing from both of us. We'll give a little bit of information about the program and specifically focusing on entrepreneurial offerings here at MIT and in the Executive MBA program. And then we have a panel of three students and alumni who are going to be able to talk about their personal experiences. This will be an interactive session. So you can use the Q&A feature. You can find it on your phone now. You can throw in questions at any point during the session today, and we'll try and answer as many as we possibly can during the Q&A. So with that, I'm going to pass it off to Andy to get started.
All right. So we're going to start with the missions. MIT, MIT Sloan, and the Executive MBA are all mission-driven. It's central to everything we do and is something unique about the Institute and our business school. MIT Sloan is one of 6 schools within the larger research institute and plays the role of translating innovations in science and management into organizational capabilities. The mission of MIT Sloan is to develop principled, innovative leaders who improve the world to generate ideas that advance management practice. The Executive MBA makes a very special contribution to MIT because the students are in a position to immediately put what they learn into practice. Similarly, the Executive MBA has its very own mission, which is empowering and connecting leaders to redefine our shared future. Now we're going to talk about a brief overview of the experience. Our MIT Executive MBA is a 20-month program, which includes 26 weekends, which are consists of a Friday and a Saturday, where our students come every second to third week to participate on campus in person for the class weekends. There's also 4 week-long modules and 1 international week-long project. The weekends are spaced out, and the week-long international trip the week-long modules are spaced out about 6 months apart, and the international week-long trip is part of your global labs, takes place in mid-March of your final year. It is worth noting that upon graduating, you receive the same MBA degree as your 2-year traditional MBAs and Sloan Fellows MBA, and most importantly of all, the course requirements and hours are the same as those for students across all MBA programs at Sloan. All right. Now let's look at what a normal, typical class in the MBA looks like. Now the status pulled for the class of 2025, but our numbers remain pretty similar year over year. Imagine yourself in a classroom of 126 global executives. The average age in the classroom is 41, and the average years of experience is 17. 56% of our students are not local, which means they travel from outside of Massachusetts to be in person every class weekend. 38% of our students are women, and 52% of our students are of international origin, which means they were born outside of the United States. 65% hold an advanced degree of some kind, which could be an MD, law degree, PhD, or master's. 76% are at a director level of their organization and above, but the one thing that all of our students have in common is that they are 100% of them fully employed. As we mentioned before, 76% of our class is a level of responsibility, director level and above. This also means 24% of our classroom managers are individual contributors. But given the focus of tonight's webinar, you're probably most interested to see that 10% of our students are full-time entrepreneurs. So I'm going to provide a very high-level introduction to our curriculum. Our weekend sessions are composed of courses that tie in analytical frameworks and business essentials. Analytical frameworks are techniques for analyzing business challenges and opportunities, such as organizational processes and system dynamics. Business essentials are the functional expertise that are important for general managers, such as accounting and marketing. Integrated modules are those full weeks on campus focused around a particular theme and are inherently cross-disciplinary. Our Idea Week module, highlighted here, is particularly entrepreneurship based, and we'll talk more about that in just a moment. Action learning is incorporated into the curriculum as a whole, but 2 classes are primarily built around the concept. Organizations Lab, where you implement a change project in your own organization, and Global Labs, where you will work in teams on a challenge facing an international organization. And finally, while our curriculum is largely lockstep cohort-based, we have elective periods built into our curriculum. Each January, you can choose between approximately 15 two-day courses, and then you'll have 3 elective options in your second spring semester. Our innovation-driven entrepreneurial advantage module, or Idea Week, as we like to call it for simplicity's sake. You'll notice a lot of acronyms at MIT. It's a deep dive focus on new product innovation and entrepreneurial strategy. It introduces students to the MIT ecosystem with panelists and speakers from across MIT. It's a project-based module, so students will pitch ideas within their team to vet project ideas and then pitch as a team for the final decided projects. Idea Week is just one entrepreneurial focus within our core curriculum. And 40 analytics companies have been started by past EMBA students. As I mentioned in the previous slide, we have a number of courses that will include some variation of entrepreneurship as you move through the program. Here we have some more core courses such as system dynamics, data models and decisions, etc. Our curriculum is designed to build on itself as you move through the program, while also allowing you to customize your journey. If you're interested in learning more about entrepreneurship, which I suspect a lot of you joining tonight are, we have the tools for you. Additionally, we have an optional certificate to guide your interest in entrepreneurship, which will require certain electives such as Intro to Disciplined Entrepreneurship and Entrepreneurial Strategy listed here. Also highlighted, we have Competitive Strategy, which offers industry and competitor analysis, a dynamic impact of strategic actions and relationship of strategy and organization. We also have Marketing Management, where you'll cover customer identification and competition, product design, market segmentation, as well as channels, advertising, and branding. Lastly, we have Organizational Processes highlighted on this slide, which will include the 3 lenses of organizational analysis, planning and leading change, and a project within your own firm.
Okay, so here we've talked about core EMBA offerings. Now, let's focus a little bit more deeply on a couple of entrepreneurial areas of entrepreneurial focus at MIT as well. So I'm going to highlight a couple of our faculty members, and I'll begin with Fiona Murray, who is, gosh, she has so many titles. I almost can't read them all. I couldn't actually fit them all on this slide, but she's Associate Dean for Innovation and a Professor of Entrepreneurship at MIT. There's a long list of accomplishments and roles that she holds, but importantly for us in the Executive MBA program, she teaches a really key module, that idea module that takes place in the spring of your first spring, in your first year. And this is an introduction to entrepreneurship at MIT, to the innovation ecosystem, right? She is faculty director for the Look-Adams Center of Development and Entrepreneurship. She holds roles in innovation across campus and across, governments in the US and the UK. And so she has this great context that she can pull in, introducing you to resources at MIT in the Cambridge area, and to really set that footing for all students, whether you are an entrepreneur or not, whether you ever think you will be an entrepreneur or not. Some of the focus on intrapreneurship or innovation applies whether you are in a startup or whether you're in a large company, if you're trying to drive change. The ecosystem at MIT, it's broad, right? So this is not just MIT. You'll see those yellow buildings on the map are our non-MIT resources that are surrounding our campus, things like, for example, the Cambridge Innovation Center or the Microsoft Nerd Center, which is right next door to our building. These red resources are specifically right? The red buildings you see on this map are specifically entrepreneurial resources at MIT or for MIT students. And those blue ones, if you're doing something that's a little bit more physical, these are maker spaces, places where MIT students can build and tinker. So there's a lot going on campus. Also, another resource that will be available to MIT students is the Martin Trust Center for Entrepreneurship, led by Bill Aulette. He's managing director of the Trust Center and a professor of the practice at MIT. He had a successful career at IBM before going into entrepreneurship as a serial entrepreneur, has experience in raising money and generating value. And then he's really influenced the way that entrepreneurship is taught at MIT and elsewhere, and has written several books. The first one was titled Introduction to Disciplined Entrepreneurship, and he teaches a course under that same title. For EMBA students can take that during our electives period that Andy pointed out too. And every year that tends to be a pretty popular course during January. So the Trust Center at MIT pulls together academics. So they offer and design courses focused on entrepreneurship for students at Sloan and across campus, right? They're really aggregating the research and ideas and from thought leaders across campus in those courses and course offerings. They have affiliated faculty who are researchers in schools of engineering, architecture, management, so really across campus. And then they coalesce some action learning for our students. And so you'll hear us talking, if you have joined more than one of these sessions, you'll have heard us talking about action in a lot of different contexts, and action learning at MIT is being very, very important to us. So a couple of the offerings that they lead through the Trust Center are MIT's Delta V, the 100K business plan competition, experiences where students can dip their toe in the water or get practice with entrepreneurship at varying levels, right? You have, as an EMBA student, access to the EMBA network and resources, right? Those are one-on-one executive, things like one-on-one executive coaching, your peer network of executive MBA students and alumni, the interest groups that our students tend to form each year, right? In most years, our executive MBA students will form an experienced entrepreneurs club or other interest group like that. But you also are a graduate student at MIT and at Sloan, so you have access to take part in or join any of the student clubs that are of interest and that have value for you. Some of our students will participate more than others, right? You have busy schedules. Some might participate as mentors in certain contexts and get a lot of give and take from that. And then at MIT, right, you have access to conferences, the innovation headquarters, the full alumni network. So the resources at your disposal in the program are well beyond the curriculum itself. Okay. So we've given a little bit of background, but really let's dive into, I know you've all hopefully found the Q&A by now and started putting questions in. Let's begin by introducing our panel for today. So Maria, Ryan, and Mark all have been through the program. Maria's in her final semester right now, or gearing up towards her final semester right now. It'll start in about a month. And Ryan and Mark have both graduated from the program, so really kind of been through the full life cycle. You all also are entrepreneurs and came in with different entrepreneurial backgrounds. I know, Ryan, you started a company while you were here, right? And have had really different paths. And so maybe we'll just go across the board from left to right and do a little introduction. Who you are, what it is that you do, and maybe what brought you to this program in particular. We'll start with you, Maria.
Sure. Thank you, Sarah. Good evening, everyone. I'm really happy to see you all here, and I'm very excited for the journey ahead of you. I'm Maria. As Sarah mentioned, I'm a current student class of 2025. I'm running a Rochelle Smart Armored Vehicles Manufacturing Company located in Toronto, Canada, as a Chief Operating Officer. My entrepreneurial journey started about 7 years ago when the company was launched. And back then, I didn't think that it would grow to become a large defense manufacturing contractor with facilities in Canada and US. And at some point, I realized that the company is growing about a few years ago, and I need to grow as well, and I need to grow with the company. So I started looking for programs for the business school. Initially applied to the local program, EMBA program in Toronto, but I'm very happy that I ended up being accepted at MIT. And although I'm still going through the program, I can already feel how much it changed me, and not just professionally, but also personally. So again, as I said, I'm very happy to be here. Look forward to the discussion and happy to answer any of the questions you might have.
Great, thanks, Maria. That's perfect. Let's see, on the panel, I see Ryan next.
All right. Hey, thanks, Sarah. Good evening, everyone. So I'm Ryan Troy, EMBA 24, so I graduated this past May. And I absolutely love my experience over at MIT. What I'm doing right now is, as Sarah mentioned, I actually started a company while in the program about a little bit more than a year ago. Co-founded it with one of the doctors in my cohort, and we are focused on applying artificial intelligence in healthcare to be able to make care better for physicians. But what actually brought me over to MIT and entrepreneurship in particular? So before starting this new venture, I was working at Workday. I was director of global solution architecture over there. But I've always had the itch and the real strong urge to do entrepreneurship, just seeing what it is that entrepreneurs are and have been able to do just to be able to impact the world. So when I was looking into programs, did a lot of research, and for me, MIT was just number one, the entire ecosystem around it. But my experience has been, great, and I think MIT has given me a lot of great tools to be able to help us get to where we are today. But I'll leave it there, and see if there's any questions that people have as we progress forward in this webinar today.
Great, thanks, Ryan. And Mark, last but not least.
Hi, everybody. My name is Mark Vins. I am the founder and CEO of Brave Wilderness. We're a new media company specializing in wildlife edutainment videos. We're most well known for our YouTube channel. We have the largest wildlife adventure channel on the YouTube platform. And I look back very fondly at my time at MIT. It was an unexpected journey for me. I came into the program frankly, out of curiosity. At that point in time, Brave Wilderness was on its 7th year. We were very successful. And then, of course, with the pandemic and everything slowing the world down, I wanted to make good use of that time. And I reached out to, I think, Sarah, actually, you were the first one to respond to me, and was wondering if the application portal was still open. And I got my application in the last second. I don't recommend you do it that way, but it was one of the best decisions I ever made to join the program. I'm what you might call a spontaneous entrepreneur. I got into new media just out of my own passion for the trade and wanting to be in the entertainment industry. I had to become a manager out of necessity, and I learned a lot about myself going through the program and about some of my managerial styles that I was working harder, not smarter. And I learned a lot about that through my experiences at MIT. And frankly, I think one of the biggest values that I got out of the program, aside from the great courses, were just exposure to all the different types of people that come in to this EMBA cohort. I had a lot of opportunities to talk with large corporate executives, other entrepreneurs, medical professionals, and you just kind of see how everybody does it. And that really influenced me post-graduation. And now I'm at the point where not only are we continuing to grow as a media business, but I'm looking at launching new enterprises, actually launching my first product company this coming year. So it'll be my second business. And yeah, it's just it's been a great, inflection point in my career, and I'm happy to answer any questions that you all have.
No, that's really good, really helpful. And I want to say to those of you joining, thanks for putting questions in. And also I see some of you are using the thumbs up. It's a great way to indicate if there's a question there that you already see that you want us to make sure we get to. But I see one that maybe for any of you might be relevant. A question from Raphael about, you hear the advice, if you want to be an entrepreneur, just go for it, versus spending resources on entrepreneurial education. And having that experience yourself, what was your thought process on that? And I'll take on the end for any of you.
Go ahead, Mark.
Okay. Yeah, that was me. I just jumped right in and started a business with my business partner, and we learned all the lessons the hard way. And that was a very I think it's an important process to go through. I don't think gaining a degree is going to give you any jailbreak secret to being a great entrepreneur or being a business professional, but it's going to give you a lot of tools that you may not have otherwise. And that's what I feel like I gained from the program is, I'm coming out of it now, not only with the experience of just bootstrapping my way toward a successful business, but now I'm doing it in, a very precise and focused way for my next business. And that's really, I think, that to me, like the difference in that question is like, yes, anybody can go start a business, and I encourage people to do that if they have that inspiration within them. But you certainly are going to have to learn all the lessons from scratch if you don't have a program like this EMBA cohort.
Yeah, my experience is very similar to what Mark just mentioned. We also started business just out of nowhere, had no previous background or experience, and it worked. I'm not saying it didn't, but at the same time, at some point, I realized that I cannot take this business any further. I need some theoretical background behind it. I need some frameworks. I need some help to get me going. So that was my experience, and I never regretted the decision to join the program. And every single time I'm coming from the classroom, going back to the office on Monday morning, I'm super excited to try something new that I've learned in class. And every single class shows me that there is something that I didn't know before and didn't try before. And it gives me an opportunity to do that and to implement it. And again, as Mark mentioned, to do it in a more focused way.
Yeah. We talk about mens at manus, mind in hand, and it really is, right, the experience that you all have had of doing something in the real world and getting the theoretical practice, and kind of being able to combine those two is, I think, really a lot of what our program is designed around trying to do. Yeah. I have someone asking about the EMBA versus Sloan Fellows. So I'm just going to take one minute to talk about the Sloan Fellows program. So at Sloan, we have 3 different programs that offer an MBA. There's the traditional 2-year MBA that most people do in their late 20s, right? And then for mid-career, right, people with more than 10 years of work experience, we have the Executive MBA, which is a 20-month program where you continue to work and go back and forth. And so you're really doing both work and school together. And then the Sloan Fellows program, where you take a 12-month leave from work and move to campus to focus solidly on your education, all learning the same degree, all doing kind of the same amount, but it's just that's a more condensed version of it. And so we had a question about what the difference are between the entrepreneurial resources in the Sloan Fellows versus the Executive MBA. They're really quite similar, right? Resources around conferences, Martin Trust Center, things like that are also available to the Sloan Fellows. They're here full time. And so to some extent, those things are easier for them to access, but they're also here for 12 months versus 20. So there are trade-offs on either end. And I think, the difference really, if you're trying to decide between the 2 programs, probably makes more sense to think about where you are in your career right now. Would a sabbatical to focus on education be the right thing at this point in your career, or would this combination be a better thing with the timing? So a little aside for that. I don't know if I know we do we do some cross programming with the Sloan Fellows and some events, but I don't know if any of you wanted to add anything to what you've noticed between the two cohorts.
No, I think you did a pretty good job of describing the differences between the two. And I just know on the Sloan Fellow side, they definitely feel it's 1-year program, really good program, but they don't get as much of an opportunity to engage, I think, as we do, because we have a full 20 months. So I think that's the other thing that is probably a very important bit of differentiation and distinction there between the two programs. Can I so I've been going through, I see a lot of questions. I see one that was specifically addressed to me, and maybe it looks like maybe 3 others that are very very similar. So I'm looking at, I think it's Marcelo asked about sharing my experience around the EMBA program and how it's impacted my journey for entrepreneurship. I see a few others that have asked the same. So I figure I'll probably go into it, because I was going to say my journey compared to Maria and Mark's is different. So, they had their businesses and they came into the program. I was working at Workday, and then I came into the program and started a new business. So I'll talk about my experience there and how MIT has helped us to get to where we are today. So, I talked about it before, always looked to go into entrepreneurship. More specifically, what ended up helping me out, though, it started off with who I had in my cohort, right? So I had a guy, Dr. Blaine, who was in my study group, who was having a problem in the medical space. And then we just kind of got to talking about it, right? And I told him, I said, Ted, some of the things you do, there's probably better ways and more efficient ways to do it, leveraging artificial intelligence. So we took that concept and we said, okay, well, let's pitch it for Idea Week. So he and I went into Idea Week, and that gave us, an opportunity and a framework to really think about the problem. And what was really nice about Idea Week is that they forced us to talk to customers and end users, right? To really make sure we had a really good understanding of the problem. So we took that, we had a chance to talk to maybe about 30, 40 different providers. We took that information into the summertime and then just kind of, working. This is starting to go into our second year. Then we said, I think we have enough of an idea to where we should probably start a company around it. So in September of last year, we formed our company. Then we started to take it into our marketing class, right? Like, how is it that you should look to segment the market? How do you target end users? And we had a report on our marketing strategy that we were able to leverage. We then took that into IAP and the electives, where we went into, we did MIT Sandbox, and we also ended up doing something called MIT Fuse during IAP, and that was about a month long, where we were able to work with the Martin Trust Center, get a lot of entrepreneur advisors to go and help us with our ideas and tell us, like, hey, this is absolutely trash, some things you're talking about, other things you may have some traction. This is how it is that you build out your pitch deck. This is how it is that you articulate value. This is how it is that you break down value. We took that IAP session and then we started saying, okay, let's start recruiting some team members. We started to engage with investors in the spring, and that led us into where we are today, where we built out a set of customers that we have as business or as development partners today. We were able to recruit 6 or 7 team members actually that we have today. And then the whole fundraising process, when we went through Idea Lab, right? I think that's the whole, So we took that project and we said, the last thing we're going to do at MIT, we're just going to focus 100%, on this new venture. So we use that, and we also use something called Analytics Edge, because I mentioned that we're applying artificial intelligence to healthcare, and we were able to use that class to build out some deep learning models that we use in our product today. So all of that kind of summarizes how it is that we have been able to leverage the EMBA program, and where we're at today is we have 2 development partners, we've got 2 pilots, 1 hospital in New York, another one out where I'm at in California, Newport Beach. And we've delayed fundraising, and we've got a whole line of investors that we're working with now to get us to the seed to C point. So we're raising and we're looking to do that at the end of this year. And MIT has helped us with getting to the point where we don't have to kind of fish for investors and hope, where they've kind of come with us and said like, hey, please let us know when you're ready because we want to invest in you. So, that's where we are today. And we're looking to set ourselves up for a successful pilot, which, I think we will, and then just ramp up and acquire more customers. And we learned about that through the marketing class. So applying all these frameworks, both while in the program and then outside of the program at the same time. So hopefully, that answers, the 3 or 4 questions that I saw around how it is that the program at least helped me get to where it is that we are today, right?
That's really, really good. Thanks, Ryan. That was, I especially, I think it's really helpful how specific you're able to get about, right, the specific resources and the part that each of them played. One thing that really stood out to me about what you shared is that it's not engaging once in one semester, but there were different components as you moved through the 20 months, right? It doesn't all happen at once, and it's really building. No, I think that was good.
Yep.
Speaking of that building and that progression, I think you answered some of Eric's questions while you were talking, but he had one about the value that you get post graduation and any resources that are continuing or value that kind of continues after you've graduated. And so I don't know what you tap it. I know, Ryan, you're pretty recent as a grad, but maybe Mark more so, things that you still tap into or lean on today.
I think first and foremost, the relationships that you build while at MIT, not only with the faculty, but with your cohort. Unfortunately, life is what it is. You're probably not going to like maintain close contact with every single member of your cohort, but you will definitely have like your core group. I have 5 or 6 that I keep in constant communication with. We bounce ideas off each other. We problem solve together. You're going to do all these things together, getting through the program as well. So you build a lot of that like connective tissue through the process, and that does remain. And I can attest that I have many great relationships that have stayed intact throughout, since graduation. And like that's another thing. I saw a comment in here about like who gets Yen, I hope I'm pronouncing that right. Who gets more success for entrepreneurs, like the fresh MIT graduates or the 40-year-old MBAs? And I think the answer obviously could be either, but you do in the EMBA level, you're bringing a lot more experience to the table, and so are other members of your cohort. And the fact that the program is spread out through a longer duration, I think, is to the benefit of the participants, because this may sound negative, but it's actually good. Like, people are going to bring like the problems of their real lives to class, and we're solving real world problems at a very high level every single time we get together. And I felt that was really impactful in terms of like who's going to be more successful. I mean, entrepreneurship, really, there's no silver bullet, of course, but I think as Ryan pointed out, that he's having success with now, your access to capital, your access to advisors are going to just exponentially grow after you graduate from a program like this.
Really? Okay, good. That's really helpful. I see one that a couple of people have put a thumbs up of support for. That acknowledge from Mert, I think, acknowledging that we have a pretty diverse class coming in. If you reflect back on it, if you reflect back on your experience with your classmates and what you learned from people, did you value the breadth of experience or the depth of experience? And it might not be a one versus the other, but how do you think about that value?
Maybe I can go first. I think it's pretty much combined, because cohort, I think it's the most beautiful thing about the program, to be honest, people that we are surrounded. And it's not only the class that you are studying together with, it's also a class which was above you, and then the class which joins right after you. And we are all very close. We are all the time together. visiting each other from one place to another. And of course, we're solving, as Mark, I think, already mentioned, we're all solving issues together, and everyone brings something new to the class every time. So I think it's really very important and deep discussions that are happening in the classrooms on all sorts of topics, and everyone brings its own perspective to the class, and I really value that a lot, and it really helped me in my business. I was working with some of the classmates, and you actually get 126 advisors around you, and I think that also continues past graduation.
Yeah. I mean, even on when we're building the class, we are, there's a lot of value, and we're looking for people who have this kind of global perspective and a broader perspective on an organization. But there's some, right, there are people who are coming in with a deep expertise in something that that brings incredible value to the class too. So we're there's not one type of classmate that we see value in either, even when we're trying to put you all together and to create this community. I see a couple of thumbs up or up votes on a question about the executive coaching component of the Executive MBA program. And, I have not talked with the three of you about your executive coaching experiences. This is something that all students are eligible for in the Executive MBA program. You receive 8 hours of one-on-one executive coaching. Mark, you were asking how things have changed in the program, and I think one element maybe in the last couple of years is that the coaching has become there's been even some added focus on the coaching, particularly with the teams in the first 2 semesters over the past few years. But to go in through those 8 hours one-on-one, that's an optional component of the program. So have any of you done the 8 hours of coaching or significant coaching time, and what was your experience like?
Yeah, I can speak to that. I did, and it was great. So I had Gavin as my executive coach, and I still talk to Gavin today, actually. So what I really liked about it was we were able to talk about, I liked first half of the program. I was still employed working at Workday, and the focus was on the psychology of the different leaders that I'm interfacing with in the organization, how to get through to them, what things I needed to do to come better as a leader, right? Being honest with myself, and then having someone tell me honestly about how it is that I need to improve, and holding me accountable to do the things between when we met and then the next time we were supposed to meet. It was definitely great. And then when I transitioned to, hey, I'm going to leave Workday, I want to start talking more about entrepreneurship. Just like that, we were able to have the sessions and talk about, okay, these are the things that you need to start thinking of. This is how it is that you need to work. This is what you need to do. And it was a great resource. Like I said, Gavin is great. Still talk to him today. Recommended really good books for me to read. Different people within the MIT ecosystem that I needed to get in contact with. So did a lot of introductions there. So the executive coaching component, for me at least, I got a lot of value from it, and still am today.
Thanks, Ryan. Yeah, it's a really personal kind of customized experience that you build with your coach, depending on where you are in your career and what your needs are at the time.
It is, yeah, and I would definitely agree with that. And it's been a great experience for me. I think it's great reflection time because for me, MIT is very much personal experience, and I think it has changed me, as I mentioned already, personally a lot. And executive coaching helps with that component. It helps me to define my leadership. I can ask questions which are personal to me, and I would probably wouldn't ask them in the classroom, or I wouldn't address them to the faculty. So executive coaching is a great component and a great bonus in the program.
Yeah, good, thanks. Michael asks a question that I think is interesting. Can you think about or share 1 or 2 things from the program that was instrumental for your growth? So, he says whether it's a new process, an application, or something that was unique and stuck out during your journey, that stands out when you think about it.
Sure. For me, Nelson Repenning's class and System Dynamics was very instrumental and similar to what Maria was touching on, the ability to be reflective and introspective on your own management style and like how you tackle problems was really brought into focus for me in that class. They talk about this idea of firefighting and like, you know, saying yes to problems too often. And that was like a big wake up call for me. It made me like step back and look at my whole, you know, output input process for my entire business. And I really retooled a lot of them almost overnight. Like once I was getting this information, it really sprung me into action almost instantly. And that's something that I always think back upon when I think about the program is like, wow, that class really like, it really woke me up. So that's my standout moment.
That's a good one. I know there are phrases and questions from that class that get asked around this office all the time, right? What problem are you trying to solve?
Yeah. I'd say a few parts that stuck out to me. One is from economics with Bob Gibbons, and the concept of, you know, he says tattoo, and it's thinking about the thinking of others. And some of the things we went through with game theory and just kind of planning for different scenarios. From a strategic perspective, that's been extremely helpful for me, and to understand like, hey, are you actually being clear? Do they know what it is that you're talking about? You know, and then at the same time, if you make this move, right, like how would they respond to it, right? And then how would they respond after that? So that sort of way of thinking has me, you know, it's got me going all the time. I think there was a lot that I also ended up learning. I'd say the entirety of Organizations Lab with Roberto Fernandez was absolutely great, right? Just in terms of how to communicate to people, you know, how to, you know, reflect on your leadership style, and just really the psychology and how the mind thinks, you know, how the mind works, system one thinking versus system two thinking. And Nelson talked about that too. But those were, you know, some of the concepts that really, the classes and concepts that really stuck with me.
Yeah. You know, it's funny. A lot of people mention organizational processes as being impactful, but the people who, over the years, the people who've mentioned that to me with the most surprise are the really deep scientists, right? Who come into the program who thought that was not going to be the thing they were most into or that they got the most value from, because it felt like the softer class, and I'm absolutely putting that in quotation marks. But I hear a lot that it was the biggest surprise for people who come in with that background. Yeah. All right, we have a lot of good questions. We're gonna take a couple more questions. If there's something you see in here that you really like, give it a thumbs up. We're gonna take maybe one or two more questions, and we'll kind of try and focus on something that we haven't talked too much more about. Maybe, did any of you do any of the competitions, or, you know, Sandbox, Delta V, 100K, either as a mentor or in the competition?
You know, we did Sandbox, so that was a, you know, a great experience, and that gave us, you know, some funding. You know, you get a little bit of money to help out and pay for some things, right, that you need to be able to build out your venture. And then you have mentorship with, you know, entrepreneurs that Workday brings into, or Workday, that MIT brings into the ecosystem, right, for you to be able to meet with on a bi-weekly. It was either bi-weekly or, you know what, it was bi-weekly. So I remember meeting often, like on a weekly basis. So MIT Sandbox was good. We didn't get an opportunity to actually go through with Delta V. We were really thinking about it, but you know, fortunately for me, I actually had a baby during the summer, so I wasn't going to be able to do it. So we said, we probably can't. But yeah, I don't have enough, I think, experience to talk about how Delta V is, but I've heard nothing but great things.
Yeah. Well, I think you alluded to something that's really real and realistic and pretty universal in the EMBA experience, is that your life does not go on pause while you're in the program, and you are going to have to make choices sometimes between something that you would love to do and something that you need to do. And right? That's always going to be a challenge, but it's okay not to do everything.
Definitely pace yourself.
Yeah. I'm sure Maria and Mark, I know that you both have had experiences with that too, where you kind of, there are 6 things you would love to be able to participate in this term, and you kind of have to pick what's most important.
Oh yeah, it's a full on experience. I certainly went into it with ideas of grandeur, like I'm going to cross register at Harvard, I'm going to join the intramural sports teams, I'm going to go do it, all these things. And then it's a for real degree. Like that's the one thing that I think everybody watching should understand. Like there are definitely some EMBA programs out there. I'm not going to name any, but like some of them are like, it's just a fun hangout and you're going to get a certificate at the end. That's not what this program is. This is like very, very legit, quant focused, high intensity moments throughout the whole program. And you get out what you put in. And there's definitely not time to do everything. So you do have to be selective about what you choose to take on and put on your plate. And I saw a question in there, like how challenging is it to manage work in the EMBA program? It can be very challenging. I will say that. Like you definitely have to plan ahead, be really strategic and protective of your time, and you're really going to lean on your classmates because I can definitely name a few people that I don't know if that degree would be on the wall over there if it weren't for a few of them. So like it's definitely a humbling experience, but it's totally worth it. Like it's one of the best decisions ever made.
Yeah, definitely. Just to build on that, it's definitely not a walk in the park. It's super challenging, by all means, but at the same time, don't be scared. Everyone is managing it somehow. We're just finding the way. So yeah, lean on your support, and we definitely lean on each other because sometimes, as we already discussed, life happens and we have to be at work or we have to be with our kids. But we all are going through that, and it's going to be fine.
I think this is such a good way to wrap up this evening. Is if there was one piece of advice that you could give yourself when you were thinking about applying, or that you wish that you knew before you jumped into the process, what would you say to your former self before, that thinking about applying to the program version of yourself?
I would tell myself, don't be scared. Just go for it. There is never perfect timing, but just do it, and you would never regret the choice.
It's a good
Yeah,
one.
I would agree. Yeah, don't hesitate. Just go for it. And if you are, apprehensive at all about it, I would say just looking more into the MIT ecosystem, not just the MBA. Look into the MIT ecosystem and look at what has come out of MIT, and that will probably be motivation enough for you to know, like, hey, this is a program for me. Because for me, that's what it was. I started to look deeper into who was coming out of the program, the different Nobel laureates that are associated with MIT, and I said, okay, I want to be a part of this program, and this is a program for me. And after that, I said, okay, I'm applying, and I rushed to apply after that. So that's what I would advice I'd give, and then also just give myself again, just don't hesitate, just go for it.
I completely agree with both of those advisements. And the last thing I would add is don't wait until the deadline. Definitely apply as soon as you can, get it off your plate. This waiting to the deadline is not the way to go.
I like that one. Well, honest, Maria, Ryan, Mark, seriously, really thank you for taking your time tonight to share your information. I know that I know it's a really big decision for everyone joining tonight, thinking about spending 20 months and kind of making this commitment is a really big decision. And so I know it's really helpful to hear from you. 4 people on now. Our application is open. Our next round deadline is that first Thursday of January, on January 2nd. And our final round will be in May, on May 8th. So you can think about your timing there, and the decision dates that you'll hear back are according to those those rounds. And if you want to learn a little bit more or get to know us better before you submit your application, we have a number of events coming up. We will be in Texas in the middle of January. I'll be there. So if you're in Houston or Austin or Dallas, maybe we'll get to meet in person, and we'll have local alumni there that you can talk about the commuting experience too. We'll have a couple more virtual events, a technology panel on January 21st. So if you're in the tech industry, and then an opportunity to visit us on campus on January 29th. So if you've not been to Cambridge or not been on MIT's campus, we'll have a session on the 29th where you can see the classrooms and see the space and meet a member of the faculty in person. So all of those are coming up. We hope that we will hear from you. I hope you're excited about the opportunities for growth and for yourself, and I look forward to seeing your application.